Guys, too much or too little? Hello and welcome back to our second segment of this edition of Beyond the Politics, a regular examination of the events happening right here in the Quinte region and the people who work so hard behind the scenes to make it all happen. I'm your host, Paul Martin. Joining me again, for the second time now, MPP for Hastings, Lennox and Addington, Ric Bresee. Hey. Thank you for coming back. And joining the program for the first time, and for the first time for this segment, you may know him on air as Buzz Collins, but we know him as David Mills. Hello, David.
Hi there. Good to be here.
Good to be here. Now, you're here for a very specific reason, not in your radio capacity, though we know each other through that venue as well. But there's been something it's been gaining a lot of attention lately, but it's been an issue now for years. And of course, I'm talking about Bill 99, Garrett's Legacy Act. I'm sure I'm going to be a little emotional about this, as I'm sure you will be as well. Can you talk about the event that happened that literally changed your life and really galvanized the effort to improve safety in this one area in Ontario?
Sure. It was 6 years ago, just May 12th, that my son was hanging out at a local park in Napanee where we live. He was with his best pal since junior kindergarten and his girlfriend, and they were just waiting on another friend to join up with him, and he was so excited because he was going out for his first ever date. They were going to go see a movie, and he decided to do a chin-up on the soccer net, something I think just about all of us have maybe done at some point in our youth. And the net wasn't anchored, and as we found out later, many soccer nets, certainly of that style, are top-heavy. So it toppled over. As it was relayed to me by his friend, he let go in the moment that it started to tip, tried to run out from underneath, but tripped on his own feet and fell down, and the soccer net, the crossbar of the soccer net landed squarely on his head, and it killed him pretty much instantly.
Now, once again, thank you for coming on to talk about this. And if at any point you need to take a break or pause, please let me know. I know how difficult this can be. Where did the search for meaning go for this? Because, I mean, that is such a tragic and sudden and unforeseeable event, but literally it changes your life and the life of everyone who knew Garrett instantly.
Yeah, 100%. And that's a great question. Because immediately after, it seemed completely senseless, and the natural, I think, reaction for any parent is to wonder why did this have to happen, and I'm a spiritual person, so some of those questions were directed to God as to why, and none of it made sense. And little side note, and I've mentioned this previously in telling this story, 4 days before this accident happened, Garrett and I were hanging out in the yard. We were in the hot tub, actually, and out of the blue, he just asked me what a legacy was. And so I explained to him that it's usually a kind of an imprint one leaves on their world, usually a positive way people remember you and whatnot. And he thought about that for a moment, and then he said, when I go, I want to leave a legacy. And little did we know that 4 days later he would be gone. So it seems kind of odd, but the day after the accident, one of the thoughts going through my head was, how is he going to leave his legacy now? And sort of tandem with that, I was also struggling with, trying to make sense out of this. And I guess my resolve was, I'm not going to get any answers, so there's no sense in asking why. But I did kind of change my questioning from why to what, as into what can I do with this, so that it never has to happen again. Certainly, I would never be able to live with myself if it happened again within the vicinity with which I lived and I hadn't spoken up about this. And so I reached out to, at the time, Todd Smith, and he was willing to work with us and write up a bill. The initial Garrett's Legacy Act, which was a tedious process and a lot of red tape that goes with that. And unfortunately, before the bill got too far, there was an election. And so it was shelved, as all bills are in a situation like that. So second time around, Stan Cho, the MPP for Willowdale in Toronto, he picked it up and sponsored it. And it made it through second reading. We were there for that day, and I'll tell you, it's a pretty kind of a humbling feeling to hear your son's name being spoken in a place, you know, like Queen's Park. And then Parliament was prorogued. So again, things got sidelined. And then I approached this good man a few months ago, Ric Bresee, and I thought, well, he's actually my MPP. Mm-hmm. And I thought, he gets it. He knows. Rick is a bereaved father. He knows. And I asked him if he would consider picking this bill up again, and I can't thank him enough for doing so. And I know he's been through enough red tape as well for a lifetime just to get it where it's gotten to. And May 9th, just a couple of weeks ago or so, it unanimously passed second reading again. And we're anticipating, hopefully, some a positive third reading and royal assent, hopefully, after that.
So, Rick, talk about what it was like when Buzz came to you, I should say, David, in this capacity, came to you to ask for your help in this matter.
I'm going to back up a little bit. Okay? I, of course, had seen the news. Sure. I didn't know Dave at the time when Garrett's tragic happened. But a few months later, my own daughter she had leukemia, and we lost her in September of 2017. And Dave reached out to me. He knew what it was like to lose a child. And again, I've said it before, you've heard me say it before, I will never be able to pay that back. Okay? It meant the world to me to talk to someone who'd been through it. You're an incredibly compassionate man. You and Gwen are wonderful people. And so, again, yeah, I've been there. Nobody should have to bury their own children. Mm-hmm. So when I became an MPP, the idea of moving forward with this, I had no idea what it would take. And again, I was a rookie MPP. Been a municipal politician for a long time. I knew how to do it there, but didn't know how to do it. And so we've gone through, over the last 6 months or so, we've gone through the legwork. We've had to modify the bill a little bit and make it a little broader spectrum to cover a lot of options, a lot of variations on the various types of soccer nets and surfaces and things of that nature. But I believe we now have a bill, and we have the right timing. We have 3 years left in this. We're just coming up on the anniversary fairly soon of the elections, so we've got 3 full years left. There's no reason why we can't get this through this time. I do fully anticipate that we'll have the committees that we need to do over the summer, and in the fall, in September, maybe early October, we will get to that third reading. I hope, knock on wood, so we get this through.
So David, this has been a long journey for you. And like you said, this is now the third term, though it started partially through the first one. Are you satisfied with not necessarily what's happened, but where you've gotten to? Like, looking at the bill as it stands now, is this what you hoped it would be?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say this. There's kind of a blessing in disguise that this has taken so long, because every time this has come up in the news, I've been asked to do press about it, and it gives me the opportunity at the end of the day to put the word out to other parents about the risk inherent with mobile soccer nets that aren't anchored. So, until it actually becomes a law, in the meantime, whether you're a parent, aunt, uncle, grandparents, you're involved with your local soccer club or whatever, if I had known that this risk was inherent with soccer nets, if I had been able to tell Garrett, hey, stay off the soccer nets while you're playing, because he played at that park regularly since he was 5 years old. Mm-hmm. And he was a great kid. He was so quick to listen to his parents, and if I had been able to tell him that there's a danger in climbing on these soccer nets, he'd be here today. So I am very optimistic. for the very reasons that Rick pointed out, that we'll see this through, and we will have a bill on the books. But I'm thankful just to be able to have these platforms to get that word out.
If I could.
Sure.
Right. Dave mentioned that to me. Mentioned the opportunities to get the word out, to use the press to carry this message. It's actually one of the things we changed about the bill, is we included the minister's regulations to create education, to create signage, stickers on them, whatever it may be, so that in the future it doesn't require press,
right,
that the education is built into the process to make sure that these things remain safe.
Mm-hmm. Does this also demonstrate from a legislative side the importance of private members' bills? I mean, this is an issue that affected one family deeply, that can affect many other families if something isn't done.
Absolutely.
So is this one of the real benefits of having private members' bills and individual members of parliament bring these things forward and really respond to an individual constituent's concerns and needs?
Absolutely, and one of the things that Dave mentioned, that Todd Smith and Sophie Koala carried it first, and then Stan Cho carried it second, both of whom are now ministers. And ministers of the Crown cannot bring forward private members' bills, which is why they didn't continue on. I've spoke with both of them. They're both completely supportive. Actually, Todd spoke at the second reading as well. So they're not able to bring forward a private members' bill. Because I'm not a minister, I am able to do so. So we're grateful that we have the opportunity to do that. And there are private members' bills on all kinds of different aspects that may be focused on an individual, but ultimately they provide for that greater good. And so, no, it is a very important process to get through.
Buzz, what was it like to be there for the second time now this is past second reading, but knowing that this will likely be the time that in just a few months this will finally become law?
There was an element that was very humbling to hear, like I said, your son's name being mentioned in a historic place like Queen's Park by prominent members of Parliament. And then, my wife and I were very impressed and taken aback, really, by how many made a point of coming to shake our hands and meet us afterward. And we had the invitation to be there for second reading again, and unfortunately our schedule was a little tight, but we certainly plan on being there for the third reading. And I just wanted to sort of dovetail with what Rick was pointing out there about how this is something that affected us specifically. And I will say, I'm not a big fan of the term freak accident, but I think it probably is the dictionary definition of what a freak accident is. And I said this quite a while ago. Even though there's only been a handful of deaths, young people deaths in Canada. I mean, it's sad that there's been any, but there's hundreds more who have been maimed, some in wheelchairs to this day, broken bones, of these children who are either playing soccer or playing on a soccer net. In the States, over 40 deaths. So even though, and I think it's funny that I'm saying this today, because today I saw on my Facebook, this is the anniversary of me actually announcing the cause of Garrett's passing. I was instructed by the OPP actually at that time to keep it on the down low until they gave me the green light, and it was on this day 6 years ago I announced how it happened from a falling soccer net, and I said in that announcement, I know that it's not something that affects many people, but if you're the parent of one of those statistics, if you're the parent of one of those fatalities, one is enough, more than enough. And so, we're moving forward very optimistically, and we're anticipating some good news come the fall.
Well, thank you for sharing your story, David, and Rick, for everything that you've done here as someone as well who has experienced that kind of loss. I know it's brought the two of you together, and we're very hopeful that this will help prevent tragedies like this happening in the future when it likely gets past.